Alright, here continue to read Spiritual Leadership, and the title,
Who was it by?
this is by Oswald Sanders. It has some forward. One is John MacArthur and John Maxwell as a forward for this book. But it's a very popular book. It's a classic. I sometimes revisit this book. So the theme now, more essential qualities of leadership. Okay, and the title is humor. Our sense of humor is a gift from God, which should be controlled as well as cultivated. Wow, a great opening. I'll read it again. Our sense of humor is a gift from God, which should be controlled as well as cultivated. Clean, wholesome humor will relax tension and relieve difficult situations. Very good. Leaders can use it to displace tension with a sense of the normal. Samuel Johnson advised that people should spend part of each day laughing. That's cool. Archbishop Whately, the great apologist, wrote, quote, "We ought not only to cultivate the cornfield of the mind, but the pleasure ground also." Very good. I'll read that again. Archbishop Whately, the great apologist, wrote, quote, "We ought not only to cultivate the cornfield of the mind, but the pleasure ground also." End quote. Agnes Strickland claimed that, quote, "Next to virtue, the fun in this world is what we can least spare." End quote. Criticized for including humor in a sermon, Charles Spurgeon, eyed-winkled, said, quote, "If only you knew how much I hold back, you would commend me." End quote. That's Charles Spurgeon. Let me read it again. Criticized for including humor in a sermon, Charles Spurgeon, eyed twinkling, said, quote, "If only you knew how much I hold back, you would commend me." End quote. Later writing on the subject, he said, quote, "There are things in these sermons that may produce smiles, but what of them? The preacher is not quite sure about a smile being a sin, and at any rate, he thinks it less a crime to cause momentary laughter than a half an hour of profound slumber." End quote. Okay. Helmut Thieckland wrote, "Should we not see the line of laughter about the eyes are just as much mark of faith as are the line of cares and seriousness? Question mark. Is it only earnestness that is baptized? Question mark. Is laughter pagan? Question mark. A church is in a bad way when it banishes laughter from the sanctuary and leaves it to the cabaret, the nightclubs, and the Toastmasters." Wow. Humor is a great asset and an invaluable lubricant in missionary life. Indeed, it is a most serious deficiency if a missionary lacks a sense of humor. A sweet urge my friends to give up the ideas of returning to India as a missionary because it was so hot there. Quote, "Man, he was urged. It is 120 degrees in shades." "Well," said the sweet noble contempt, "we don't always have to stay in the shade." Norris, a missionary to India, testified, "I have never met leadership without a sense of humor. This ability to stand outside oneself and one's circumstances, to see things in perspective and laugh. It is a great safety valve. You will never lead others far without the joy of the Lord and the contaminant of sense of humor." Douglas Thornton was often more amusing than he tried to be. He had a delightful way of mixing up two kindred proverbs or idioms. Once he told his companion that he always had two strings up his sleeve. They then asked him if he also had another card to his bow, which things enliven heavy committees meeting and create wholesome laughter. After a half century of ministry, F.J. Hallett claimed that in the actual work of a parish, the most successful leaders in the one who possess a keen sense of humor combined with a clear sense of God's grace. The humor lent originality and eloquence to sermons. Of one great preacher, it was said that he used humor as a condiment and a stimulant. One of the great preachers, it was said that he uses humor as a condiment and a stimulant. At the time of laughter, would rock his audience never about scared matter. Following the jokes, he would quickly swing to the sublime. His humor never fell into frivolity. A good test of appropriateness of a joke is whether the humor controls us or we control it. About Kenneth Strachan, the General Director of the Latin America Mission, it was said, quote, he had a keen sense of humor, but he had a sense of fitness of things. He knew the place for a joke, and his humor was controlled. Very good.